You open your eyes. Something is wrong. There is no ceiling above you. No alarm clock. No phone. No air conditioner humming in the background. Instead, you're lying on hard ground beside a wide river. The sky is turning orange. Palm trees move gently in the distance. Across the water, mud brick houses are beginning to glow in the morning light. Then you notice the boats. Wooden boats. No engines. No steel. No plastic. And behind you, rising from the desert, are monuments that look far too new. Not ruins. Not tourist attractions. Working temples. Freshly painted walls. People moving through streets in linen clothing. You haven't landed in a museum. You've landed in ancient Egypt. Thebes. Around 1350 BCE. And you are given one very simple challenge. Survive the next 24 hours. At sunrise tomorrow, you need to return to this exact spot beside the Nile. Do that, and you go home. Fail. And congratulations. You're now an ancient Egyptian. Forever. To make this remotely fair, you can understand the local language. But that's all you get. No money. No food. No modern medicine. No bottled water. No sunscreen. No antibiotics. No secret bag of granola bars. You are wearing a simple linen garment and sandals. That's it. And right now, surviving 24 hours sounds easy. After all, millions of Egyptians lived here. People worked, raised children, made beer, built houses, fell in love, complained about their jobs. Surely you can handle one day. Your first mistake is thinking ancient Egypt is trying to kill you. It isn't. Ancient Egypt doesn't care about you at all. And that's much worse. Because the biggest problem is not a crocodile. It's not a mummy. It's not a pyramid trap. It's something much more ordinary. You have no idea how anything works. The sun is barely above the horizon, and already the city is moving. People carry baskets. Donkeys move along dusty paths. Workers head toward jobs. Women grind grain. Someone is baking bread. Someone is shouting at someone else. Children run between houses. Nobody is waiting for the mysterious stranger from the 21st century to appear. You stand up and immediately discover your first survival problem. Water. You could probably survive several weeks without food. You are not going to enjoy trying the same experiment without water. The Nile is right beside you. Problem solved, right? You take a step toward it, then stop. This is where being a modern person gives you one important advantage. You know that clear water is not automatically safe water. Ancient Egyptians lived intimately with the Nile. It fed agriculture, transport, and daily life. But Egypt also had a long history of water-associated parasitic disease. And schistosomiasis has a particularly unpleasant trick. You don't necessarily need to drink contaminated freshwater. The parasites can enter through your skin during contact with infected water. So your brilliant survival strategy of jumping directly into the Nile for a refreshing morning swim? Maybe not your best idea. Fortunately, you're standing near one of the most sophisticated civilizations of the ancient world. People here do have systems for obtaining water. The problem is that everyone else knows where those systems are. You don't. So you follow people carrying jars. This becomes your first rule for surviving ancient Egypt. Stop behaving like a time traveler. Start behaving like someone who doesn't know where anything is. You spot a group collecting water. You wait. You watch. Nobody is collapsing. Nobody is screaming. Excellent signs. You manage to obtain some. Your first problem is solved. For approximately 10 minutes. Because now your stomach starts complaining. You didn't eat breakfast before being thrown 3,000 years into the past. Luckily, ancient Egypt smells like carbohydrates. Bread was one of the fundamental foods of Egyptian life. Beer was also a major part of the Egyptian diet rather than merely a recreational drink. You see bread being carried through the street. Flat loaves, round loaves, baskets of grain. Nearby, someone has a jar of beer. This looks promising, until you remember something. You have no money. And more importantly, you have no identity. Think about how easy your life is today because strangers recognize invisible systems around you. You walk into a store. You have currency. You have a bank account. You have identification. You understand prices. You know what behavior is normal. You know who owns the food. You know what you're allowed to touch. Here, you know almost nothing. You can't simply grab a loaf of bread because you saw it. Ancient Egypt has property, work, households, officials, temples, social hierarchy, and stealing breakfast is a terrible way to begin a 24-hour survival challenge. So you need another ancient invention. Employment. You look for work that requires almost no explanation. You are not going to become a scribe. You cannot write hieratic. You cannot design a temple. You cannot carve beautiful reliefs. You cannot pretend to be a physician because your medical knowledge consists mostly of searching symptoms online and becoming convinced you're dying. But you can carry things. A man is unloading baskets. You point. You offer to help. He looks at you strangely. Your clothing isn't completely absurd. Your accent probably is. But labor is labor. Soon you're carrying a basket. Then another. Then another. 10 minutes later, you make an important discovery. Your 21st century office posture has not prepared you for ancient Egyptian manual labor. The basket gets heavier every trip. Your sandals suddenly feel like decorative suggestions rather than footwear. The sun climbs higher. Dust sticks to your skin. Your shoulders begin to burn. And you realize something modern history documentaries rarely communicate. Ancient Egypt was physically demanding. The temples are beautiful because someone moved the stone. The bread exists because someone harvested the grain. The water arrives because someone carried it. The furniture exists because someone cut, shaped, and transported the materials. The monuments we admire are the final product. Human bodies paid the production cost. You've been carrying baskets for less than an hour. Your back already has opinions. Eventually, your improvised employer gives you something to eat. Bread, maybe vegetables, or another simple accompaniment. And some beer. You stare at the beer. You've heard the famous claim. Ancient Egyptians drank beer because water was unsafe. Be careful. That line gets repeated so often it sounds like a law of nature. Egyptians absolutely drank water. They also drank beer. Beer was a staple food and drink with nutritional and social importance. You do not need to invent a civilization where nobody touched water. Your 21st century brain has another question. How strong is this beer? The answer is less important than the fact that you haven't eaten much and you've spent the morning carrying baskets under the Egyptian sun. So you drink slowly. Congratulations. It is now morning. You have acquired water, food, and temporary usefulness. You're doing surprisingly well. This is the exact moment the challenge gets harder. Because the sun keeps climbing. Ancient Egyptian art has tricked you. The paintings make everything look calm. Farmers stand elegantly. Workers carry objects gracefully. Nobody appears drenched in sweat. Nobody has sunburn. Nobody looks like they desperately need 5 minutes in front of an air conditioner. Actual Egypt is hot. And you have no modern system for escaping it. No refrigerated building. No electric fan. No ice machine. No sports drink. Shade suddenly becomes technology. A mud brick wall becomes valuable. A linen garment makes much more sense. Your fashionable 21st century outfit would probably be a disaster here. The loose linen you're wearing? For the first time today, ancient Egypt has given you something better suited to the environment than what you might have chosen yourself. You learn another survival rule. Do not fight the climate. Copy the people who already know how to live in it. People reduce unnecessary exposure. They use shade. They manage water. Work has rhythms. Buildings are designed for a world without air conditioning. You begin moving more slowly. Then something happens. Your foot slips. A broken piece of pottery is lying beside the path. Your sandal shifts. The edge cuts the side of your foot. Not badly, just enough to bleed. You look down. In the 21st century, this would barely qualify as a problem. Wash it. Disinfect it. Cover it. Move on. But your brain suddenly produces a list. No antiseptic spray. No sterile bandage. No pharmacy. No tetanus shot waiting nearby. No antibiotics if the wound becomes infected. The cut itself probably isn't going to kill you during the next 12 hours. But it changes how you see the entire world. Modern medicine isn't just something you use when you're seriously ill. It quietly removes fear from thousands of tiny injuries. A scratch. A blister. A tooth infection. A stomach problem. A fever. Here, small problems have more room to become large ones. You rinse and protect the cut as best you can. And continue. By midday, you are tired enough to consider abandoning the city and simply hiding until tomorrow. This sounds intelligent. It is not. Remember the rules. You must return to the riverbank at sunrise. And you now have another problem. You need somewhere to spend the night. You could sleep outside. But before choosing that option, consider what outside means. There is the cultivated Nile Valley. There are settlements. There are desert margins. There are insects. There are animals. Ancient Egyptian magical texts and protective objects repeatedly concerned dangerous creatures such as snakes and scorpions. Suddenly, sleeping with your face next to a pile of rocks feels less adventurous. So you need shelter, which means you need people. This is where the challenge changes. Until now, you've been trying to survive Egypt. But Egyptians did not survive Egypt individually. They survived it together. Households, families, work groups, neighbors, officials, water carriers, bakers, farmers, craftsmen, sailors. Your survival depends on entering one of those networks for a single night. The man you helped earlier becomes important, not because he is powerful, because he recognizes you. You return. You offer more work. You carry more baskets. You sweep. You move jars. You become useful enough that you're no longer simply the strange person standing in the road. By late afternoon, someone allows you to sit in the shade near a household. This might be the greatest achievement of your life. You have entered ancient Egyptian society, not as a pharaoh, not as an explorer, as the weird new guy who carries things. And strangely, that's exactly where you need to be. Around you, daily life continues. Grain is processed. Food is prepared. Children move around the house. Containers line walls. Furniture is simple. The building itself feels unfamiliar but logical. Then your stomach gives you another warning. A warning every human recognizes instantly. You need the bathroom. Of course you do. You've eaten. You've drunk. You've spent all day moving. And now ancient Egypt demands payment. You look around for something resembling a modern toilet. Nothing. If you're lucky enough to be inside a wealthy household, a dedicated toilet might exist. Some elite Egyptian homes had toilet installations using a seat above a receptacle, often managed with sand rather than a modern flush system. If you're not wealthy, your options become more basic. A vessel, a private outdoor place, some arrangement understood by the household that nobody has bothered to explain to the time traveler. And then comes the question that destroys every romantic fantasy about living in the ancient world. What do you use instead of toilet paper? The historically responsible answer is frustrating. We cannot identify one universal Egyptian equivalent. Organic materials rarely survive well enough for archaeologists to reconstruct exactly what every social class used in every period. So now you face a choice. Ask your new ancient Egyptian acquaintances an extremely awkward question, or improvise. You decide your dignity died several thousand years in the future. You ask, whatever solution they show you, you follow it. You have now survived ancient Egyptian sanitation. Your reward is realizing you still have roughly half the challenge left. The light begins to soften. The temperature becomes more tolerable. For the first time all day, you start enjoying yourself. The city changes in the evening. People return from work. Food is shared. The violent brightness disappears. Oil lamps begin replacing sunlight. You can smell cooking. Voices carry through the settlement. For a brief moment, ancient Egypt stops feeling like a survival challenge. It feels like a neighborhood. And this is dangerous, because you're beginning to romanticize it. Then you look around carefully. No electric lights. No refrigerator. No emergency room. No police number in your pocket. No weather app. No locked modern apartment. No insect screen. No modern sanitation system. No reliable way for you to explain your medical history. And perhaps most importantly, no one in this world knows that microscopic pathogens exist. Ancient Egyptians were sophisticated. They observed disease. They developed medical treatments. They cared about hygiene. They bathed. They used cosmetics. They created remedies. But germ theory is thousands of years away. The Nile gives Egypt life. It can also participate in disease cycles nobody here can see. Water can look perfect and still carry a biological threat. This gives you an idea. Your goal isn't to live like an Egyptian forever. Your goal is to minimize risk for one night. Don't experiment with unknown remedies. Don't wander into the river. Don't eat strange food just because a history video told you it was authentic. Don't go exploring tombs in darkness. Don't pick up snakes because you saw them in hieroglyphs. Stay with people. Eat what they eat. Drink from the source they're using. Keep your wound covered. Rest. Leave before sunrise. Simple. Then the real escalation begins. Your stomach twists. Not dramatically, just enough to make you nervous. Was it the food? The beer? The water? The heat? Exhaustion? Anxiety? You have absolutely no idea. And you have no diagnostic equipment. This is what makes ancient illness frightening. Uncertainty. Today, you can check your temperature, search symptoms, call a clinic, visit a hospital. Here, your entire medical dashboard consists of, I feel weird. You lie down. The house becomes darker. Someone gives you space. You hear insects. A dog barks outside. The people around you are not panicking, so you try not to panic either. Minutes pass. Nothing gets worse. Good. Then you remember your cut. Still fine. You check the sky. Several hours remain. You begin counting time without a phone. This is surprisingly difficult. You have spent your whole life surrounded by clocks. Now time is light, shadow, meals, stars, human routine. You cannot check 2:43 a.m. You can only know. Still night. You sleep badly. Every unfamiliar sound wakes you. A jar moves. Someone coughs. Something scratches. At one point you become convinced a cobra is inches from your face. It is a piece of rope. You have never hated rope more. Eventually the household becomes active again. Not fully, but enough. The sky is changing. This is it. You stand. Your body feels destroyed. Your back hurts. Your feet hurt. Your clothes smell like a complete archaeological excavation. Your cut still hurts. But you're alive. You thank the people who helped you and begin moving toward the Nile. Now the final challenge becomes obvious. You need to reach the original riverbank before sunrise. The city that seemed fascinating yesterday now feels like a maze. Mud brick walls, paths, animals, people, fields. You try to remember landmarks. You follow the riverward flow. The sky becomes brighter. You walk faster, then faster. You reach the cultivation. The Nile appears ahead. And suddenly you understand how much ancient Egyptian civilization depends on this one landscape. Behind you is desert. In front of you is water. Between them lies a strip of life. Fields, houses, temples, workshops, people. The river isn't simply part of Egypt. In many ways, the river is the reason Egypt exists. You reach the bank. The first edge of the sun appears. 24 hours. Completed. And now you're expecting some dramatic lesson. Maybe. Ancient Egypt was terrifying. Or, modern people are weak. Or, ancient Egyptians were tougher than us. But those lessons are too simple. Because you did not survive by being tougher. You survived by copying people. You drank where they obtained water. You ate their staple foods. You worked when work gave you access to food. You sought shade because they understood their climate. You found shelter by becoming useful to a household. You survived because you temporarily entered a system ancient Egyptians had spent generations building. That's the thing we misunderstand about survival in the past. We imagine dropping one modern person into history and asking, are you strong enough? Wrong question. The better question is, do you know how this society keeps people alive? An ancient Egyptian child would understand things you don't. Where to get water, which paths to use, how to behave around officials, how bread is distributed, what clothing works in the heat, where to sleep, how to use the bathroom, which animals to avoid, when the river is dangerous, which household you belong to, who will help you when you're sick. That knowledge doesn't look like technology, but it is. You arrived with thousands of years of scientific knowledge inside your head. You know germs exist. You know parasites exist. You know dehydration is dangerous. You know infection is real. You know the earth orbits the sun. You know what electricity is. And for most of your 24 hours, almost none of that was as useful as knowing where the local well was. That's the twist. Ancient Egyptians would be helpless in your world. You would be helpless in theirs. Not because either side is stupid. Because civilization is a giant collection of knowledge we stop noticing once it becomes normal. You know how to use a supermarket. They knew how to live beside the Nile. You know how to use a flush toilet. They knew how to manage a world without sewer pipes. You know how to open a refrigerator. They knew how to process, store, and prepare food without electricity. You know how to call an ambulance. They knew which family members, healers, and gods they believed could help when something went wrong. Surviving ancient Egypt for 24 hours is possible. Probably much easier than surviving alone in an empty desert. But there is one condition. You cannot treat the people around you like background characters in your adventure. They are the reason you survive. The pyramids are impressive. The temples are impressive. The gold is impressive. But the greatest survival technology in ancient Egypt may have been something much less glamorous. Other people. So here's the real question. You now know what 24 hours looks like. No phone. No air conditioning. No modern toilet. No antibiotics. manual labor, ancient food, ancient water, ancient sanitation. One night in a mud brick house. And if you survive, you get to see the Nile, Thebes, and the temples when they were still alive. Would you do it? 24 hours. No modern equipment. No cheating. Could you survive ancient Egypt? Because surviving one ordinary day is difficult enough. But next time, we're making the challenge much worse. You are waking up in ancient Egypt as the poorest person in the city. And this time, you don't get to leave after 24 hours.